the preview for the very first time on the Jumper Punch channel as we get set for a round 3 clash between our Blue Boys and the mighty Footscray. Well, they were dubbed Footscray last week, the Western Bulldogs Football Club. I'm sure you know who I am. Paul, friend of the Jumper Punch, is here with us as well. Matty Donald is making his maiden appearance on the channel on what is a maiden show called The Preview as we get set for Carlton versus the Western Bulldogs. Matty Donald from the Salty Bulldog podcast. Matty, mate, good to do it with you rather than being at work. We're outside hours.
No, always a pleasure to team up with you, Paul, and looking forward to this one. We've got a really interesting match on our hands come Friday night. Looking forward to getting.
We do, don't we? It's funny, isn't it? Both teams have had. I was actually having this discussion today with a couple of mates. Both teams have actually had similar pre-seasons just with regards to off-field issues. So your mobs had Ugle-Hagan and a few backfield or a few off-field issues that have risen over the last couple of months, and there's still question marks over the coach as well. And you've got is there a board meeting coming up in the next couple of days for the Western Bulldogs? Is that right?
Well, if there is, I haven't received the invite yet.
Okay,
maybe that one got lost in the mail. That's good news to me.
Right. So, and Carlton's got off-field issues as well. It all started with the president, Luke Sayers, a couple of months ago. Elijah Hollands now, and it's now Harry Mackay who's facing some off-field issues of his own at the moment too. So not an ideal preseason leading in for both clubs, but I don't know what you think about this. I mean, your podcast is dubbed the Salty Bulldogs podcast, but I feel that given the fact you've got no Bontempelli, no Treloar, no Ugle-Hagan, we're talking 3 really, really high output players, 3 gun players. They're all out, but you seem to have dealt with it pretty strongly the first 2 weeks. A good win against the Roos and then probably stiffed out of one against Collingwood last week.
Yeah, it's been an encouraging opening fortnight, to be honest, Paul, because going into that round 1 match, a lot of people gave North a chance. And I think from a Bulldogs perspective, just getting the win at this point in the year was key rather than how it was done, just getting the win. And against Collingwood, there were a lot of really good signs. To be perfectly honest, we were second best across the course of the night. So if we had nicked it, it would have been, Collingwood probably would have felt a little hard dealt with. I'm not sure that Carlton supporters would care too much about that.
You're already a friend of the channel, mate. I'm sure plenty are endeared by that comment already.
Well, I mean, it's good to get in the good books early, but it's been a good opening fortnight. And I suppose the absence of some of those stars, like you mentioned, Bontempelli, Treloar, Ugle-Hagan, Waitman as well, and your former Blue, Liam Jones, it's opened the door for others to really stake their claim. And to be fair to those players, they really have. Sam Darcy's made that forward line his own in the absence of Ugle-Hagan and has been he's been a headline maker this week. Joel Frazier through the midfield has really stood up in the absence of Bont and Treloar, and Ed Richards as well has been very good. And James O'Donnell was encouraging against North Melbourne in the first game. Didn't play last week due to injury, and Rory Lobb has had to do a lot of it on his own down back, which given he's only been playing as a defender for 6 months, it's been a pretty impressive start to the season for him. So there's been a lot of players who have stood up in spite of the absence of some of our key players, and it holds the entire team in good stead going forward for when we do get those key players back. That there are 23 players out there that can shoulder the load as a team, rather than having to rely on the odd 2 or 3 to get the job done.
You've mentioned a lot of dangers there as well, and I think when you look at the way your mob play and not, I mean, you love that handball-centric move the ball because you've got players with good foot speed and really good users as well, whereas Carlton is almost the complete opposite, a big physical bash and crash team. So it's almost contrasting styles to a certain degree, which I think is a fascinating matchup. And I think both teams, your mob has got the better of us the last 2 times we've played each other. We were expected to beat your lads last season in Patrick Cripps's 200th game, which was a game that pretty much spelt the end of Carlton's season. And if you date back to 2023, that was a game where you had us comfortably at around about halfway through the 3rd term, and then we came back with a flurry of goals. And I think it was Arthur Jones who may have kicked the winner alongside Bailey Smith in that game back in 2023. So the last two matches have been highly entertaining, but you guys have had the wood over us and probably that little bit more efficient. And I think that's probably the difference between the two teams. So an intriguing matchup ensues. I'll also say that both teams are capable of throwing matches away, aren't they? That's probably been the big bugbear for both of our teams. That's why your podcast is called the Salty Bulldog podcast.
Yeah, there's probably an element of truth in that, and yeah, certainly in the back half of last year, even when we were playing really well, it would be 3 weeks of excellent top shelf football, and then there'd be an outright stinker just littered in there, which would sort of set things back for us a little bit. So there definitely are a bit of inconsistencies certainly in our performances and even Carlton. I mean, I think by the point you played us last year, you might have been second on the ladder.
We were, yeah.
And there was about 5-6 games to go in the season, and then after that, it really started to fall away for you, and it took you to the final game of the home and away season to scrape into the 8 in the end. And you were a bit wasteful that day. I think Curnow kicked 3-7.
He did.
Yeah, and we didn't have a backline. Liam Jones wasn't playing. I think Rory Lobb had only just sort of started down there.
Trelaw was laid out from memory.
Trelaw was laid out. Yes. Yeah. I think it ended up Buku Kamas on Charlie Curnow, which struck fear into the hearts of Bulldogs fans across the land. And the fact he had 10 scores in the end suggested that he probably had the better on Kamas and all, but the accuracy. But it was a really interesting game. That one last time. In fact, the last two you mentioned, even though the Dogs have got out on top both times, have been funny old affairs.
They have, haven't they?
And it wouldn't surprise me if we get something similar again on Friday night.
Yeah, big momentum swings and big moments in both games. I wanted to ask you, and I always do like getting the thoughts about our Blues from the external and opposition supporters. The first thing I'll ask you, the dangers when you look at the Carlton team that's going to be fielded tomorrow. I mean, obviously we're looking at Charlie Curnow, who's still working his way back from an interrupted preseason, Patrick Cripps. Are there any other dangers that you've looked at on the field from our perspective that you think your mob need to curtail?
Yeah, Tom de Koning is the one whose name I've had circled all week. I just think his physicality.
And you've been very critical of Tom English as well.
Yeah, and for a long period of time, and maybe I go a little overboard with it sometimes, but I just know the ability of the guy, and that he does have the skills to be one of the best rucks in the competition, but often struggles to bring the physicality to the table, and that's one thing that Tom de Koning will not lack in his game. He will throw his weight around at every opportunity. And we've seen time and time again with Tim English that if he's pitted against an aggressive ruck who is prepared to compete, more often than not, that ruckman will win out in that individual battle. And we've seen it often in big games and in big finals as well. And it's one that I spoke about with my co-host Nick earlier in the week. And is a name that I've got circled. You already got me on the hop with Charlie Curnow because key forwards against the Western Bulldogs always terrify me. And I mean, Paddy Cripps is reigning Brownlow medalist, dual Brownlow medalist. He's one of the best players Carlton have ever had. So he's obviously going to pose a threat. Yeah,
I think from our perspective, it's the physicality, which is where we will try to find an edge. I think your mob have the superior ball users. For me, the player who stands out, there are 3 players that stand out, and one is Bailey Dale, who is just an incredible user of the ball. The way his passing pierces through the air, and he did it against Collingwood, and he's going to be a clear danger. The other player for me, and you mentioned him just before, is Rory Lobb. Carlton has this tendency to just become frantic and rushed and go long, and it may play into his hand. So as much as we do have tall options ahead of the ball, also, I think Carlton also has to be very wary of not fueling a guy like Rory Lobb's game, he's been one of those, and we've seen this happen so often in AFL the last couple of years. He's been one of those defunct forwards who's been thrown down back and just looks a completely new player and for the better as well. Not too sure about the green hair, but...
Well, I mean, what do they say? If you want a gun key defender, the first place you go is to the pile of failed key forwards.
Yeah.
And that's where our entire defense is based around, because we've got Rory Lobb at centre halfback, and at fullback we've got Liam Jones,
Correct.
who was a failed key forward at 2 clubs. I was in terms of the actual matchups. I mean, with Rory Lobb in the opening sort of fortnight, he's been forced to sacrifice his offensive intercepting game because he's been the only one down there. There's been no Liam Jones and there was no James O'Donnell last week. It's kind of a shame that Harry Mackay is not playing for a couple of reasons. Firstly, for Mackay personally, but second, I was really looking forward to the Mackay Lobb matchup. I thought that was going to be a really fascinating one. But I think now that he's not playing, you've got Liam Jones, James O'Donnell back in the side, frees Rory Lobb up a bit more, particularly with no genuine second tall. It gives him a bit more license to attack the footy and try and win it back, which I think in the second half of last year proved that that's his go, that he's a better defender when he's trying to win the ball back rather than acting as a pure stopper. So I think, if Carlton are a long down the line kick sort of side, they've got to be wary of an unopposed Lobb reading the play on Friday night.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's just going to position himself around the ball and up the line to cut off those long. But plus, too, it's also the pressure you all might put on the ball carrier as well. That's just part and parcel of any football match as well. Just on the actual season itself, what were your expectations of? What were your expectations of not just your mob, but Carlton coming into this season? What was it, finals like it was last season for both teams, or did you see a drop off? Did you see an improvement?
I was really confident from the Dogs. I'll start there because I know what I think with this one. I was really confident in how they were going to perform this year, and it was through the body of work that they carried out through all of last year. So in terms of points scored and points conceded, they were ranked top 2 in both demographics, and if you can do that as a side, that generally normally puts you up right in the premiership bracket and at least top 4 minimum. So based on that, and that wasn't just the last 6 or 12 weeks, that was the whole season. So based on that, I had great confidence that we could replicate that again. And we'd lost some high profile names, but no one that was really core to the lineup. Players that had sort of been phased out a bit, like McRae and Daniel and Bailey Smith hadn't played at all. So while those losses were high profile, they weren't crucial to our system. Carlton the last couple of years have been a hard team to get a read off.
My goodness.
It must be frustrating as a supporter. Never mind a neutral supporter. I mean, what do we say? A month and a half to go, you were second on the ladder, and then with one game to go in the home and away season, you were, your finals fate was out of your hands.
Unbelievable.
And then that elimination final, which I'm sure you don't want to go into.
No,
and then the off season you've had. So it's been a rough 6 to 12 months for Carlton. I probably expected that you'd be at least contending for finals. I wouldn't have expected a huge drop off from you. I think I'll put it that way. I mean, and as I say, a lot of the things that have gone against Carlton have been through no fault of their own. And the one I think of immediately is Jagger Smith with the knee injury. And I know Carlton fans did such a good job in trade period to get everything that they wanted through the door, and including that pick 3. And the club had huge raps on him, and to lose him for the entire season is such a bitter pill to swallow. So
especially the fact that we got our ducks and eggs in a row to actually get him. And we moved, I wouldn't say moved heaven and earth, but it was a tricky scenario to try to get that pick 3. We had to do a lot of moving and shaking to get it. And then for him, just unfortunate. I don't think he would have been the be all end all with regards to us competing for a flag or whatnot, but we have a lot of big midfielders, big loping midfielders, Matty, and we needed some sort of point of difference. We needed someone who had that little duck in and duck out type of step, a bit of a pivot, which we don't really have. We've got Hewitt and Chera and Cripps and Walsh, and they're all physically strong midfielders, but are they really elite on the spread? That's the big question. Walsh probably is, but he had 12 tackles last week, Matt. Like that's just someone whose running power is his asset. For him to be asked to have to lay 12 tackles, I think it just goes to show you how inefficient this team is at the moment. And Carlton just has inefficiency written all over it at the minute. So, look, Matty, I'll say this on the game, right? If you see Charlie Curnow at halfback or at the back of stoppages like I did for periods in that game against Hawthorn last week, I think you can rest easy, mate. I think
Yeah,
you can rest really easy. Put it that way. So
he's a good kick, but he's not that good a kick.
Come on, honestly, I know. But listen, even Luke Beveridge can be an obscure coach at times as well, can't he? He's a very quirky character, I find.
Yeah, he is. He's different. I think that's fair to say, and he's one that can, he can win you over and make you pull your hair out in the same
absolutely.
move.
Is there pressure on him? Is he? He's been there for a while. I mean, he's got you to finals. He's won you the first flag, and God knows in the longest drought in club history. And he got you there.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on Beveridge in the last few years. I currently at the moment, and I think the way he performed last year was terrific. There was the review that the club had at the end of 2023, and one of the things I identified was that he needed more help. It was a case of he had too much that he was trying to do at once, and they brought in some more people to help him and just allow him to focus on doing what he does best. And I think in the way they performed last year and the way they've started this year shows that was the right decision to just free him up a little bit more. So I'm in on Beveridge at the moment because I think the way he's coached over the past 12 months has been really good, and the team have performed very well. And even the way that he's managed the start of this year without a host of star players. And this is the first time he's ever had to be without Bontempelli for consecutive weeks in his career, and he's been there for 10 years, which is a bit of a shock to the system. But I think the way he's handled the injury struggles has been really impressive. I don't think he's under pressure in terms of a performance sense, though. I think he's fine on that front.
Yeah, Paul. I think it's polar opposite for us at the moment. There's this great question and this great conundrum with our team at the moment, Matt, and it's since Michael Voss has arrived, the results have improved clearly. That's just maths and science. It's just you look at the ladder, you look at the results. They've improved since Michael Voss has got there. But the question that we're now asking is, how much of that improvement has been allotted to players just naturally and physically getting better because they've been at the grade for a while now? They understand the rigors of the game. They understand the rigors of the league. They physically get bigger and better, compared to how much of a percentage marker has Voss actually improved this team. And we're talking about inefficiency. Is he actually getting as much out of these blokes as he could? Could somebody else get more out of these plays? We won't know the answer to that unless he's moved on. I hope that's not the case, because we've performed terribly. He's contracted till the end of next year. So
when was his first season as coach? Was it 22?
2022. Yeah.
22. So if I think about Carlton, that year they were top 4 at the midway point and then missed out right at the death.
At the death,
correct. In 23, they were probably bottom 4 about halfway during the season, got to a prelim. And then last year you were, as we said, second late in the season and then fell away a bit. So it's like inconsistency has been a real issue with Carlton. They're either on a tear or in free fall. There's no real middle ground with the Blues.
Yeah, it's very volatile at the moment, Matt. And that's I think it's funny how the volatility with how we play in game, and you'll probably see it tomorrow night. There'll be moments where it's just chaos, and that's probably where we thrive. But chaos to a point over a 23, 24, 25, 26 week season, how sustainable is it? That's the big question mark. And that's why I think you see a lot of volatility with our ebbs and flows in season. We've had these incredible lows, and then we've had these incredible highs, which haven't amounted to anything from a premiership charge perspective. But Voss said when he first came into the club, this is what he said last year, at the end of last year. He said, when I got here, we were not a consistent football club. And now that I'm still here, we are still not a consistent football club. So it's a fascinating time ahead for our boys and for your boys too this season. We'll get onto some predictions before we wrap up this little mini pocket preview. I'll start with you, mate. You're the guest. How are the Bulldogs going to win this game? How are Carlton going to win this game? What's your prediction?
For how are the Bulldogs going to win this game? I think it is about. I think the priority for us is restricting Carlton. and their scoring, particularly around Charlie Curnow, who is one of the most dangerous forwards.
Could it be a double team? Do your boys go down the path of a double team of maybe Lobb and Karmas playing off Curnow and playing together?
Not necessarily. I think it'll be one man.
Okay,
I'd be surprised if it was anyone other than Liam Jones that goes to Curnow.
Okay,
and then that frees up. Who's back in? Yeah, and that frees up the likes of Rory Lobb. And James O'Donnell as well, and Buku Karmas. But you've got a couple of other tallish options that you can throw there down there. I think Brody Kemp and Jack Silvani you use occasionally as forwards as well. And it may be that Karmas is sort of responsible for one of them. The midfield depth is going to be an interesting battle because we've got a reasonable starting midfield. It's probably going to be Liberatore, Ed Richards, and Carlton fans will know well Matt Kennedy as the starting sort of trio.
Yes.
And then it might be someone like a Joel Fraser that you throw in there, Riley Sanders, maybe even Harvey Gallagher at times. And after that, it just drops off a bit, that next tier. And I think we were tested in that regard against Collingwood, who had a near full strength side. And while we were sort of able to hang in there for a bit, it's quite clear that, and there were times in that Collingwood match where, you just felt like, you just really want to Bont out there right now, or you could just do
Everyone wants a Bont out.
Everyone wants a Bont. Yeah, it sounds so silly to say, but just that little bit extra, that real sort of
of course.
And we just lacked that a bit in the opening couple of weeks, and when we get them back, we'll be quite all right. But we've just got to ride the waves for the time being. And I think that's another area of the ground where Carlton can exploit just that sort of next the tier below in terms of the midfield groups.
Okay, right, very interesting. Okay, prediction. What do you got for us?
I am still going to go with.
You're going to tip your mob. You have to tip your mob. Obviously.
I mean, it'd be rude not to. I am going to go with the Dogs, but I mean, would not surprise me in the slightest if we're getting to the halfway point in the last quarter and it's still up for grabs in this one.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout one way or the other. I'll say the Dogs by probably about 2 to 3 kicks.
Well,
similar to the last time.
I've tossed and turned and mixed it up. On the jumper punch, I said Carlton by 5 goals just to get everybody up and about. But on the Untitled Blues at SEN at our lovely humble abode at work, I said Carlton by 3 points. I think it's just going to be very, 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 very tight. So the odds are suggesting that as well. Either way, I think it's going to be a fantastic Friday night match. And may the best team win. I think it's going to be it'll probably be more season defining for us than it is for your mob, just because we're under an enormous amount of scrutiny and pressure. And if we go 0-3 charging into the Collingwood game, if the pitchforks and knives and daggers haven't been sharpened yet, I think they well and truly will be leading into that game next Thursday night, mate.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. And I think for us, just to keep treading water while some of those big names are out, and just to go 2-1 without a lot of them, that'd be a big deal. And given how tight this competition is, you don't want to give too much away.
No. And maybe that could also be an inkling into the volatility of Carlton at the moment because of how tight the competition is. You lose one game and you can drop 6 spots. You win one game and you can rise 6 spots. So look at Brisbane. Brisbane were the masters of it last season, winning the grand final, or bolting in the grand final from 5th. So it is possible to win the flag from outside the 8 and do so quite comfortably. But I think my mob cannot talk about flags just yet. They've actually got to put a win on the board for the first time in 2025, mate. Hey, Matty, where can we find all your handiwork, mate? We've got some links down the bottom of the page, but where can Oppo supporters here at the Jumper Punch, and where can your lads find your work?
Well, the Salty Bulldog podcast is available for you wherever you get your podcasts, and the 2 most popular spots are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But if there's anywhere else you tune into, I'm sure you'll find it there as well. Our social media channels, we've got plenty of them as well. Twitter, or X, however you refer to it these days. Facebook, Instagram, and we've got our website as well, www.thesaltybulldog.wixsite.com/home. We publish a few articles up there from time to time too, so that's where you can find all of our stuff.
Magnificent, mate. I'll probably see you at work very, very soon.
I'm sure you shall. One of these days, I'll rock up.
If it's not at the ground, if it's not at the ground after the Friday night match, it'll be Saturday, Sunday, and we will definitely digress over what happens at Marvel Stadium, mate. Pleasure doing it with you for the first time for the preview on the Jumper Punch, and a pleasure to have you on the channel, my man.
No, it was a blast, Paul. Thank you.
Like, subscribe, the Jumper Punch. Leave a comment down the bottom of the video as well. Make sure you go out and follow the Salty Bulldog on the socials and wherever you get your main podcasts. And we'll be back to do the review after the Carlton versus Bulldogs game. Are we playing each other later in the season again? I think this is the only time we play each other this season, unless we both make finals or a granny.
Well, I always say this. I say until we play in finals. But I have to check. I don't think we play each other again.
I don't think we do either.
I think it's just the one time this year.
I think it might be. I think it might very well be. You're feverishly scrolling through that. I reckon you might be right.
I can't see Carlton again. Yeah, so until grand final day.
All right, until grand final day, mate. We'll see you in September. Hooroo, guys.